Topic 1. The Great Escape. Chains broken. Destiny unknown. They stumbled through the hot fields of Mississippi, chains still clinking around their ankles. Everett, the talkative leader with slicked hair and endless plans. Pete, stubborn and suspicious, always questioning. And Delmar, naive but full of childlike faith. Each step on that dusty road was a gamble. They weren't just running from prison walls, they were running toward a dream Everett had promised, a buried treasure, waiting to change their lives forever. But already, doubts began to rise. Who chose Everett as the leader? Why should they follow his word? In the chaos of escape, even trust among brothers was fragile. Still, with the sound of dogs in the distance and the sun burning above, they knew one thing. Going back was not an option. So ahead lay a treasure, or a trap set by destiny itself. Pronto, esse é o hook mais tópico 1 robusto. Quer que eu continue para o tópico 2, The Meeting with the Blind Prophet and the Mysterious Prophecy? Você disse, continua. O ChatGPT disse, perfect. Vamos avançar. Aqui está o tópico 2 robusto em inglês nativo, mantendo o estilo narrativo cinematográfico. Topic 2. The Meeting with the Blind Prophet and the Mysterious Prophecy. As they wandered further down the dusty path, the three fugitives encountered a strange figure, an old blind man, riding on a handcar along the railroad tracks. His eyes were empty, yet his voice carried a weight that froze them in place. He spoke not to their faces, but into their souls. You seek a great fortune, he declared, and you shall find a fortune, though it will not be the one you desire. Your journey will be long and filled with dangers. You will see wonders, a cow upon a cotton barn and other marvels beyond reason. The road will twist, your hearts will grow weary, but salvation awaits at the end. Everett smirked, always skeptical. Pete whispered with suspicion, and Delmar, wide-eyed, clung to every word as if it came straight from heaven. For a moment, silence fell. The chains on their ankles rattled like an omen. Was this prophecy a guide from God, or the ramblings of a madman? Whether they believed him or not, the words carved themselves into their minds. The treasure still called them forward, but now, the shadow of prophecy walked beside them. Pronto. Esse foi o tópico 2. Quer que eu continue para o tópico 3? Between family betrayals and promises of fortune? Você disse, continua. O ChatGPT disse, ótimo. Aqui está o tópico 3 robusto em inglês nativo, seguindo a linha épica e envolvente. Topic 3. Between family, betrayals, and promises of fortune. The fugitives pressed on, weary but hopeful, until they stumbled upon familiar faces from the past. Family ties, once a source of comfort, now revealed only heartbreak. Everett and his companions learned of farms lost to the banks, of cousins ruined by debt, of relatives hanging from despair. The Great Depression had not spared anyone. What once was home was now just ashes of memory. Yet even in reunion, betrayal lingered. A cousin's smile hid treachery, for he had already whispered to the law in exchange for a reward. Bloodlines meant nothing when hunger and survival spoke louder. We are trapped, whispered Pete, as the sound of dogs and rifles closed in. Everett clenched his jaw, refusing to accept defeat. No, the treasure is still waiting, and I buried it myself. That is our way out. Delmar, ever trusting, clung to hope. But in the shadows of kinship and betrayal, they began to realize their greatest enemies were not only the sheriffs behind them, but the very people who once shared their blood. Aí está o tópico 3. Quer que eu continue para o tópico 4, The Buried Treasure, Legends, Lies and Hope? Você disse, continua. O ChatGPT disse, perfeito. Aqui está o tópico 4 robusto em inglês nativo, mantendo a linha narrativa intensa. Topic 4. The Buried Treasure, Legends, Lies and Hope. Through the endless chatter of Everett and the constant doubts of Pete, one promise kept them moving forward. The treasure. Everett swore he had hidden a fortune long ago, buried deep in the earth, waiting for the day he would return. Gold, cash, freedom, all wrapped in a single promise. Delmar's eyes lit up with the thought of farms restored and debts erased. Pete's suspicion grew heavier with every mile. "If you truly buried it," he asked, "why did you wait until now? Why drag us into this madness?" Everett, brushing back his slick hair, smirked. "Because fortune favors the bold. And I'm bold enough to take it back." But the truth lay tangled between legend and lie. Was the treasure real or just another trick to keep the others chained to Everett's schemes? Still, hope is a powerful leash, and in a world broken by poverty and despair, even the whisper of buried gold was enough to keep 3 fugitives marching into danger. Esse foi o tópico 4. Quer que eu continue para o tópico 5? Baptism in the River. Faith, Superstition and Redemption. Você disse. Continua. O chat GPT disse. Ótimo. Aqui está o tópico 5 robusto em inglês nativo, mantendo o tom cinematográfico e emocional. Topic 5. Baptism in the River. Faith, Superstition and Redemption. As the fugitives journeyed deeper into the south, they stumbled upon a gathering by the river. Men and women in white robes were walking into the water, singing hymns that echoed through the trees. The preacher raised his hands, and one by one the faithful were plunged beneath the surface, emerging with tears of joy, claiming their sins had been washed away. Delmar, wide-eyed and trembling, rushed forward. "This is my chance," he cried, wading into the water. Moments later he rose again, beaming. "My sins are forgiven, even the bank robbery I never confessed." Pete followed soon after, desperate for redemption, convinced that baptism had given him a clean slate before God and man. Everett, however, remained on the shore, arms crossed, shaking his head. "You fools. Washing in that river won't wash away the law." The state of Mississippi is not so easily convinced. Still, as Delmar and Pete clung to their newfound salvation, Everett's cynicism could not drown their faith. Hope had taken root, and the river had marked a turning point in their journey. Were they still fugitives? Yes, but in their hearts they carried the belief that heaven itself had now chosen to walk beside them. Esse foi o tópico 5. Quer que eu continue para o tópico 6? The Musician and the Pact with the Devil, the Price of a Soul. Você disse, continua o chat GPT, disse. Perfeito. Aqui está o tópico 6 robusto em inglês nativo, mantendo a força narrativa. Topic 6. The Musician and the Pact with the Devil, the Price of a Soul. Not long after leaving the river, the trio encountered a lone traveler walking the dusty road, a young man carrying a guitar. His name was Tommy Johnson. "Where you headed, son?" Everett asked. Tommy's eyes dropped to the ground. "I was supposed to meet the devil at a crossroads last night. I sold him my soul in exchange for this." He strummed his guitar, and the notes rang out like fire, smooth and haunting. Every string carried the weight of his bargain. Delmar gasped. "You mean the devil himself? Red with horns and a pitchfork?" Tommy shook his head. "No, he was pale, white as you, with empty eyes and a deep voice, and he never walks without his hound from hell at his side." The 3 fugitives exchanged uneasy glances. They had already seen betrayal, prophecy, and redemption, and now stood face to face with a man who claimed to have bartered eternity for a song. Pete whispered, horrified, "Your soul for a guitar? That's madness." Tommy only smiled sadly. "I wasn't using it much anyway." And so, with the devil's music at their side, the fugitives marched on, unaware that fate had just added another twisted chord to their insane odyssey. Esse foi o tópico 6. Quer que eu continue para o tópico 7? The Birth of the Soggy Bottom Boys, Music that Transforms Destinies. Você disse, continua. O chat GPT disse, excelente. Aqui está o tópico 7 robusto em inglês nativo, mantendo o ritmo envolvente. Topic 7. The Birth of the Soggy Bottom Boys, Music that Transforms Destinies. With Tommy's guitar in hand and desperation in their hearts, the fugitives stumbled upon a small radio station. Inside, a sharp-tongued man with spectacles and a microphone promised to pay cash for anyone willing to sing. Everett, never one to miss an opportunity, stepped forward. "We are the Soggy Bottom Boys," he announced with confidence, "and we've got a song that'll save your soul." Pete and Delmar looked at each other, confused. but followed Everett's lead. Tommy began to strum, and Everett's voice, steady, bold, and strangely moving, rose into the air. I am a man of constant sorrow. Their harmony, though unpolished, carried the weight of hunger, hope, and hardship. For a moment, the walls of that dusty studio trembled with something greater than music. The station manager, stunned, handed them a few dollars and sent them on their way. Little did they know, that song would soon spread across the South like wildfire. The Soggy Bottom Boys had been born. From fugitives in chains to unexpected folk heroes, their voices would echo far beyond their flight for freedom. They walked out with nothing more than pocket change. But destiny had just handed them a weapon stronger than guns or gold, a song that would turn outlaws into legends. Esse foi o tópico 7. Quer que eu continue para o tópico 8? Chases, politicians and the manipulation of the masses. Você disse, continua. O ChatGPT disse, show. Aqui está o tópico 8 robusto em inglês nativo, mantendo o estilo cinematográfico e denso. Topic 8. Chases, politicians and the manipulation of the masses. The fugitives' journey grew darker as their faces began to appear on wanted posters. Every town they passed whispered their names. Every shadow seemed to carry the weight of pursuit. But amid the chaos, something strange happened. Their song, Man of Constant Sorrow, had already spread across the airwaves. Crowds cheered for the mysterious Soggy Bottom Boys, not realizing they were fugitives hiding in plain sight. Meanwhile, the world of politics twisted the melody to its own ends. Corrupt governors and slick campaign managers seized the chance to turn music into propaganda. They promised reform, shouted about morality, and plastered smiles across every stage, while secretly feeding off lies and power. Everett, Pete, and Delmar watched the circus unfold in disbelief. Here they were, outlaws running for their lives, yet their voices were now fueling rallies, swaying voters, and giving false hope to the masses. Funny thing about politics, Everett muttered, combing back his slick hair. It's just another kind of con. Only difference is, these men steal with applause instead of guns. The trio realized they weren't just fugitives anymore. They had become pawns in a much larger game, where music, politics, and power collided to manipulate the very soul of the South. Esse foi o tópico 8. Quer que eu continue para o tópico 9? The sirens, the temptations, and the danger of perdition. Você disse, continua. O ChatGPT disse, perfeito. Aqui está o tópico 9 robusto em inglês nativo, mantendo o tom de mistério e perigo. Topic 9. The sirens, the temptations, and the danger of perdition. On a quiet evening, as the fugitives followed the river's edge, they heard it. A melody so sweet, so enchanting, it seemed to float out of another world. 3 women appeared in the water's glow, their voices weaving like silk, their beauty mesmerizing. They beckoned Everett, Pete, and Delmar closer, offering wine, song, and the comfort of arms that promised to erase every sorrow. Delmar's heart raced, Pete's eyes glazed with desire, and even Everett, ever the skeptic, felt the pull of temptation. The sirens' laughter wrapped around them like chains stronger than iron. But morning brought only ruin. The camp was in disarray. Pete was gone, his clothes left behind and in his place, a squirming toad. Delmar, horrified, believed the sirens had bewitched him, transforming his friend into a cursed creature. Everett scoffed, calling it nonsense, yet even he could not shake the unease. Were these women mere wanderers, or ancient spirits of temptation sent to drag them off their path? The line between myth and reality blurred once more, and the fugitives realized how fragile their journey truly was. For in a world full of lies, betrayal, and illusions, the greatest danger was not the law chasing them, but the weakness within their own hearts. Esse foi o tópico 9. Quer que eu continue para o tópico 10? The truth about the treasure, Everett's final deception, e concluir o roteiro. Você disse, continua. O ChatGPT disse, ótimo. Aqui está o tópico 10 robusto em inglês nativo, que fecha o roteiro de forma épica e reveladora. Topic 10. The truth about the treasure, Everett's final deception. At last, After endless miles of dust, betrayal, and broken promises, the truth could no longer be hidden. Pete and Delmar, still clinging to the dream of buried riches, pressed Everett for answers. With the law closing in and no road left to run, Everett sighed, slicked back his hair one last time, and confessed. There is no treasure. There never was. His words cut deeper than chains ever could. The fortune he spoke of was nothing but a lie, a desperate tale spun to keep them moving, to keep them hoping. All along, Everett's real treasure had been something else entirely. His wife about to remarry, and the life he was determined to reclaim. Delmar's face fell in disbelief. Pete's eyes burned with betrayal. Yet even in anger, they realized, they had shared something greater than gold. They had endured floods, fire, and temptation. They had sung songs that moved the hearts of thousands. They had been chained, hunted, deceived, and somehow they had become more than fugitives. They had become legends. As the waters of the new dam swallowed the land around them, Everett's lie no longer mattered. The treasure was gone, but their story, their odyssey, would live forever. For in the end, the greatest fortune they found was not gold in the ground, but the unbreakable bond of brothers forged in struggle, faith, and the madness of their journey.